This bill is set down for second reading forthwith.
Speaker.
The Honourable Minister.
Move that the Customs and Excise Tobacco Product Budget Measures Amendment Bill be now read for a second time. Mr Speaker, in the first reading I spoke about why this legislation is good for all New Zealanders. I talked about the costs of smoking and I presented some evidence to suggest why this is important to New Zealanders, why it's important to the health of New Zealanders, and why a tax is part of an overall package to bring down the costs of smoking, to save lives, and overall to improve the well-being of New Zealanders. Sir, some points have been mentioned from across the chamber around guaranteeing applying these tax revenues to the public health spend. And sir, it is true that there will be $425 million raised over the next 4 years. But sir, as Minister Coleman said in his comments yesterday after the budget, that will go towards more in hip knee replacements. That will go towards disability support services for those in need. It will also go towards the bowel cancer screening programs that will be delivered in the next 4 years. Those are the types of health programs. Those are the types of health programs, sir, that are good for New Zealanders. And I don't think New Zealanders out there would argue that this money will be well spent on health services delivered to New Zealanders over the next 4 years, sir. Sir, they said that it was just a revenue grab, but you know, increasing tobacco excise, we know internationally recognised that it reduces harm and it reduces the cost to society. Sir, the members opposite also referred to the impact on lower socioeconomic groups, but only one member opposite actually understood and looked at the evidence. And I thank Ms Wall for actually doing the research and understanding the impacts of this legislation. And I want to quote from one of the experts that Mr Clark mentioned, and it is the study by Wilson, Thompson, Tobias and Blakely, and in that they raised two conclusions. One, that the estimated harm to life expectancy from tobacco taxation is in the order of magnitude smaller than the harm from smoking. And secondly, and this is important for us as lawmakers in this debating chamber, policymakers should be reassured that tobacco taxation is likely to be achieving far more benefit than harm in the general population and in socio-economically deprived populations, sir. That's the evidence that has been presented. Ms Wall understands that. I suggest she talks to her colleagues just to bring them up to speed with some of the latest evidence. Sir, what was also mentioned is that, and the Māori Party referred to it, is that this measure in and of itself is beneficial to our health of New Zealanders, but in and of itself requires support. And so there is a comprehensive tobacco control program in this country. It is world-renowned and it is delivered with serious health outcomes in mind. So the effectiveness of these programs has been measured, and they do, through the various programs, through the various smoking cessation tools and programs, face-to-face smoking cessation interventions, as well as Quitline, the stop smoking medicines. There are a number of these programs out in the community that are being used to reduce the incidence of smoking. And some programs are more effective than others, and our government, I reiterate, our government is committed to ensuring that the programs that are working well should be funded, and those that don't work so well should be cut. It's as simple as that. We want more effective programs because we know that if you invest $1 of taxpayers' money, we want to see a return on that investment, where it costs Treasury estimate the valuation of stopping a person smoking, it's about $38,000. The valuation of preventing someone from smoking is approximately $13,000. Other members in this House, sir, have also referred to a black market supposedly being ramped up. Well, there is no evidence whatsoever of this market being in place. The officials have looked at the size of the illicit tobacco market in New Zealand. It's estimated at about 2.8%, which is far lower than some of our trading partners overseas, which is far lower than those that we compare our health system to. So, sir, there's no evidence of that, but the authorities, customs, the police, as well as our health officials are keeping a watching brief on this particular area, sir. So I want to just summarise by saying, sir, that smoking is responsible for close to 10% of health loss from all causes, and it includes 4,500 to 5,000 premature deaths a year. That's why we're doing that. That's why we're passing this bill, sir. It is a useful bill. It's something that I think most parties around this chamber are supporting. It is helping us on our way to our smoke-free goal by 2025. And I again, in the second reading, urge members opposite, members around this chamber to support this piece of legislation.